Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Meno Lounge. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of Menowell, Menopause Energy and Protein Bars. And here we are with a really important topic today. You know, when my 25-year-old daughter, hi Ann, asked me, Mom, my friends are talking about Ozempic. What are the risks and rewards? I thought, oh my goodness, we absolutely have to have a conversation about this. We need to know as midlife women, but if our daughters are asking, yikes, we really need to know what this is all about. All right, so of course, I have to bring our two specialists with us on this conversation. And I mean clinical, like master's degree clinical, and also Dr. LaReesa, MD. Okay, let's see. Here's Barb. Here comes Barb. Hey, Barb.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? How are you? I'm going to see if I can find Dr. LaReesa here.
Awesome.
You just do a song and dance while I find
Okay.
LaReesa. Hello, LaReesa. Oh, I'm so glad everyone's here. This is a really important topic. Hi, Dana. Um, young women now, I was saying, Barb, I don't know if you heard that, but my daughter is telling me her friends are now talking about Ozempic and, semaglutide. Hey, Dr. LaReesa, all the way in Florida. Hi, hi, hi.
Hi.
And how important this conversation is, that we really illuminate what the risks and the rewards are of semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, all the things injectable in this space. And I just want to say that, as between the three of us at Menowell, everybody here, that we are a no judgment zone. So that's why it's important to understand the rewards of using a medication like this. But we need to understand the things that we're up against as well. It's such an important conversation. I'm all about weight training and eating well, but sometimes we need something else, and we need to acknowledge that, but be an informed consumer. So that is our purpose today. Always love being here with everybody. And I feel like it's kind of a more serious conversation as this kind of swell around these drugs just continues to grow and grow. So hi team, how are you?
Hi.
Hello, hello. All right, well, let's jump in. LaReesa, do you want to talk about the risks or rewards first? Are you feeling positive today, or do you want to get right at it?
Oh,
I'll let you
uh,
lead.
well, you know what? I'm going to extend it from what you had said as far as the informed decision. And I had a mentor that initially told me that it's all about how you look at the inputs and the outputs,
Mm.
because you have your, well, I want to go all natural versus, well, I need a medication. And you're right, it's very easy to go down that path or that direction of shame or, well, I had to do it a certain way. And so this is a tool, this is an input that is available. And if you look at it like that, then you can at least know that around it, you're going to make an informed decision based on your lifestyle of what you need right now. But
Mm.
you're right. So what are some of the risks? What are some of the things to have to consider? So let's start with the basics. So Ozempic is a extension of what we call semaglutide, which is a peptide that you can take, or an injection now, that is FDA approved for type 2 diabetes. So its off-label use is for weight loss. Not to get too scientific, but it's a GLP-1 agonist. That's the title of the drug that is under, as far as the category. And it can really help with this postprandial insulin secretion. So after you eat, it can modulate itself as far as helping you break down and utilize insulin effectively. And then also it can help out with decreasing glucagon, which also can formulate more blood sugar or elevated
Everybody get
blood.
out their paper today and write
Yeah.
down all these words or definitions. Yes.
Because I think it's important, because at the end of the day, it's the biology behind
Right.
it, right?
It's all
And
science, right?
exactly. And so also part of it, people report decrease in appetite and as far as easily being satiated or satiety. And that has to do with the delayed gastric emptying that can occur. And so that means as you eat, you're probably getting more full easily. And so therefore you may not want to eat as much. So it's interesting because of all the waves and the fads out there, it still kind of goes back to, okay, so you do eat less, then you can lose weight,
Less
right?
calories in, less energy in, right. Well, that's how I learned about it in the
Mhm.
first place. A young woman actually had told me, I love your bars because I take drug W,
Mhm.
and I can't eat anything. I'm nauseous all the time, but I know that if I eat one Menowell bar, I'm getting nutrients, I'm getting fiber, I'm full, and I can tolerate that. And I like, wow, that kind of blew me away. But she had lost 50 pounds
Yes.
and she had a little bit more to go. So it was a really important tool for her.
Mhm.
So yeah, that seems to be the thing,
Absolutely.
right? Though it makes you not hungry. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and at the grand, view of it all, obesity is an epidemic. I mean, it is a constant epidemic crisis that we have that equates to the multi-trillion-dollar state of healthcare now.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of, impact obesity has. It impacts cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, cancers. It's related to that. So this is something that is going to strike a chord, just like finances or anything related to health,
Yeah.
right? So it's going to be something that people are going to strongly consider where, hey, I've been trying to lose weight. I have a difficulty of doing so. Is this something that's going to be right for me? And going back to informed decisions. And so what some of the risks or side effects could be nausea, diarrhea, constipation. And the studies have shown that people who were on this particular drugs or some of the drugs that are related in this same category, they are losing weight compared to placebo. The thing is, opportunity wise, is really looking at that long scale risk because there's no actual long-term, like extensive data. So that question always comes up, well, how long can I take it? And will I, gain all of my weight back? And some of those things are, well, not quite sure, but it is indicated for type 2 diabetes, so they can take it chronically. And we know that it can support that. And will you gain your weight back? It's highly likely that you will. Mhm.
Right. That's the tricky part. I
Mhm.
mean, I agree. We know that obesity, and there's a whole definition around
Mhm.
obesity, right? But it's
Yeah.
a comorbidity.
Mhm.
I'm pretending to be Dr. LaReesa right now.
You're fine.
Um,
You're
it being having extra weight is not an aesthetic issue. It is
fine.
a longevity and vitality
Mhm.
issue, and that when we have extra weight, more energy in our bodies than we need to actually store, then we put ourselves at risk for all kinds of things we don't want, especially in midlife. So that's why this is such an important conversation. And
You know,
so you're saying that's a
Mhm.
tool. Okay, I see Barb is about to jump
Mhm.
out of her seat over there.
I just want to I
I
want to
love
bring
it. I
into
love
this
it.
conversation
Mhm.
obesity and weight gain are complicated. It's
Mhm.
not just calories. We all come in different sizes and different shapes, and there's a
Mhm.
social piece to this. There's genetics in this. There's socioeconomic. Do we have access to certain foods?
Mhm.
How
Huge.
we process them, what our lifestyles are like. I mean, there's lots of different pieces. Do we have other things going on that cause us to gain weight? Do we have another condition that we're taking a medication that causes us to gain weight? So
Right.
there's all sorts of different and I think women in particular, and especially
Mhm.
a lot of women, by the time they've gone all the way through life to midlife, are carrying around a lot of extra weight,
Everything.
emotional weight because of
Emotional
weight,
weight.
right? And I think that that's something that we need to always be thinking about in this conversation.
Yeah. I,
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
glad you shine the light on that, Barb. You're right, because access to different foods, life experience, all those things are a part of who we are and, you know, on our own journey, but it makes a difference. It really does. So Barb, you want to talk about too that, you know, when we go off of something, let's say, let's just call it semaglutide. Let's just use that as a generic, although we're kind of calling out Ozempic here, but what are your thoughts about weight gain after you go off something like this, a tool like that?
So anytime we lose weight very quickly and, you know, we're on a very low calorie diet or a medical supervised diet, we always run that risk of gaining weight very quickly. And one of the things we need to look at is, are we losing fat mass as we're losing weight, which is really what we want to do, or are we losing muscle?
Right.
And, you know, we have to go to kind of take a next step to measure that. But if we're losing muscle is where we burn more calories when we're resting. And if we are coming off of a medication and we've lost 40% of our muscle 40% of our weight loss was muscle, metabolically, we're not going to be as healthy. And so we're going to gain weight much quicker.
And more usually, right?
And
Don't
more
we usually
usually,
end up gaining more back?
Right.
Yeah.
So we really need to be working with someone who can help us come off of this and making sure while we're on it, we're really working on building muscle so that we don't have this happen. Because then we end up in a worse situation. Right. We can see blood sugar go up, you know, gain more weight. More of that weight is fat, which is not what we want, especially as we get older.
And that yo-yo thing is not good for our bodies either, right? Is that true? Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I love that, having somebody, if you make that decision, with you for that journey along with, because, okay, LaReesa, don't get mad. Doctors, really good at prescribing stuff. Not so good at the other part sometimes, you know.
Maybe they should all get a nutritionist in their office.
Yes.
Or work with me.
Except for
I consider myself
Dr. LaReesa, which you can work with. You could, let me just say, here's the mid-roll ad right here. You can actually work with both Dr. LaReesa and Barb privately. I highly recommend follow them after this and reach out to them, because I ask them things all the time. So yes, you know, invest in yourself this year for sure, whether you decide to do a semaglutide or some other route to achieve the wellness level that you want, wellness standards. I went to a vitality workshop on Saturday. Oh my goodness. I need to do a workshop just on that. It was fire. I was actually freaked out at the end. I was like, oh, it was so good. But you got to, whatever your goals are, you know, and forget the January thing. Like, we're not about that, right? This is just forever, but it's a nice kickstart this time of year. Get some support. Whatever you decide to do, reach out to a Barb or a Dr. LaReesa, a nutritionist, a doctor to help you through your journey. Okay, so we're talking about some of the risks, some of those yucky things, and we're talking about some of the rewards. What about for young women? Is there an age category? Because I don't know if you heard LaReesa when I was hopping on, you know, Georgia, she's 25, and she told me, Mom, my friends are talking about Ozempic and should they do it? And I'm like, oh, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just the mom in me coming out. And they're mostly talking about like 15 pounds. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's the wild, wild west. I don't even know how else to describe it right now, because it's become more of a cosmetic thing than actually what was implied from the beginning. And it's hard. I don't have a straightforward answer about it, because we're fighting against psychology. We're fighting against ads of beauty and what beauty looks like. And so I think that there's a much deeper sense. So when it comes to younger people, technically, they could probably find a physician or medical provider that will absolutely give it to them as off-label use. Would it be something, especially for a young person, where they most likely have a lot of hormones working in their favor, and they just need to get more in the rhythm of their natural cycle and really work with someone to optimize that, get the inflammation down, get some of the toxins out of their life, and be able to lose that 15 pounds? Absolutely. And this is outside of, medical issues or
Right.
problems.
Setting
Because
aside if someone has other diabetes or
exactly.
things like that.
Exactly. But really turning around, I want to touch back on what you said about longevity, because when it comes to this community, this menopause community, that's the type of conversation that we need to have, and really wrap around what are these inputs as far as the impact on our longevity, or activating those longevity genes. And really exciting to know about the gut microbiome and all these other things that are really going to play a part. So I did want to circle back to, I look at things kind of like a ladder, because regardless, you're going to have certain hormones at play. And there's something right about, okay, you need to address your cortisol output, or the stress or the demands on your body, because actually you're going to have more cortisol receptors in that midsection that Julie always talks about. So those areas need to be addressed. And is it definitely Ozempic that's going to be able to do that? No, because this is a time frame where death or divorce or many other traumatic experiences could be taking place, where you have this higher demand on your body. And when you do, as Barb mentioned, your musculoskeletal system, or your muscle system, is your largest organ system. So just think of it, if you're not able to get your body the nutrients that it needs to really impact some of these demands on your body, this is what I see. Women that plateau easily. So we talk about reward on the front end, but the risk and the downplay on the other end. Increase in brain fog sometimes. Sometimes their energy is not as well. So they're getting in better clothes and they're looking better, but they may not really feel, it's like you get that boost of confidence, but I may not be feeling my best because I'm not getting some of these other nutrients to really support these other cognitive factors.
That's the word, nutrients, right? Especially if you're not hungry. If you're not hungry, then you're not, how hard is it to get in nutrients in your body? And then your energy goes to zero when we're already kind of fighting that a little bit. And then brain fog. Oh yeah, huge. I didn't think about that. Because yes, maybe, you do need to shed in some ways. I love Barbara over there. I know Barbara's like, I got this. It's like nutrients. This is my, okay. And,
I want to add, one of the side effects that we're starting to see is women losing hair, which also happens in midlife.
Because you lose weight too fast and your body can't keep up.
You're not getting the nutrients, right?
Is that and the stress. Some
exactly.
people don't recognize the instant of some kind of hormonal shift or balance. And then oftentimes this hair loss is very reversible, because I am so into hair loss recovery now. Oh my goodness. Because it has just been one of those things where, I'm an OBGYN by trade, and literally outside of how much did my baby weigh coming out of a mom after delivery, they're talking about hair. So it's something that's kind of, like stuck in our brain for a long time. So thus this billion-dollar industry, right? But not trying to digress, but it ends up being something that impacts us so much more, and recognizing there are 3 stages of hair, as far as a resting phase, a growth phase, or or like a releasing phase, or your hair needs to go through this cycle. And some women feel like, oh, I can never get this back. But honestly, sometimes going back to the foundations of, oh, okay, are you able to get some of the nutrients, the inflammation, get that down out of the system, in which you might have to add like certain special lotions or special shampoos, or, things to kind of really grow that factor into it. But understand that it's something that can have multiple effects. And I'm one that I will prescribe, but I know what I'm doing. I look at things not only from a longevity standpoint, I look at the mitochondria, which is like your functioning energy cells, as well as the gut. So we have a plan, and I consider myself a physician with oriented mindset, like a coach, because you need to look at it. Okay, this is the short term. What are we going to do for the long term play? I'm a football girl too, so we'll go ahead and talk about what we do on the
Go
first 10
Saints.
yards
Yeah.
and then what we're going to do at the goal. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna
Sorry, that's a good.
let's hop to Barb, but then I
Mhm,
want to come back because I forgot you probably
mhm,
prescribed one of these things
mhm,
before. I want to give us a
mhm.
case study. You know, names have
Okay.
been changed to protect the innocent. So,
Yeah.
Barb, talk about those nutrients then,
Mhm,
because the first time I ever lost a ton of hair is after I had a baby,
Me
and it
too.
freaked me out. Like, I
mhm,
mean, just by the loads. And so I still go through those shedding
mhm.
process, even though I'm postmenopausal. But Barb, talk about that because I know it's so nutrient based.
Yeah. The first time after I had a baby, you can't tell right now, but I have really curly hair. My hair, I lost all my hair and it went straight. So go when it came back in. But that's our hormones, right?
Mhm.
And hormones can affect hair loss. Autoimmune issues can affect hair loss. Stress can affect hair loss. Getting a diet rich in all sorts of nutrients, all our vitamins, proteins, that can affect hair
Yeah.
loss. So, you know, uh, so we need to be, and stress, I think, is this under talked about thing. We give it lip service all the time,
Yeah.
but it really, really is important. That and sleep, which we kind of shave off the edge. We get a little bit more done, or we're a little stressed out, or whatever. We have a little drink, and then we don't sleep as well. And
Taking
so I
notes.
think it's all tied together. But I want to mention one thing that Dr. LaReesa talked about, which is the gut microbiome, which I think is really, really important. We make our own natural GL1 antagonists in our gut, and we make them through soluble fibers. We get an increase in them with proteins and things like that. And our gut is really important as we age. Our immune system is there, and it affects every system in our body. And the more we learn about it, the more it affects every system.
And
So
Barb,
important.
and we can remind people that, was it last week or the week before? A couple weeks ago when we did, I already
Yeah,
forgotten. Was it?
it
Um,
was middle of December, I
okay.
think.
Few
Yeah,
weeks
getting
back,
some.
go look on our Instagram reel page, and we did a whole Meno Lounge on alternatives to semaglutide, foods and nutrition that act as semaglutide might
Right,
in your body, just in case
right.
that's
This
for
is
you.
not a
So,
medical
yeah,
souped up version, but the natural version.
yes,
Yeah.
the natural
Um,
version.
yeah.
Okay,
And so if you're not hungry, you're not putting the inputs in, the good inputs.
great.
So, there are things to weigh.
Definitely. And I want to tell, there's a lot of good comments and questions in the chat. So
Mhm,
we're going to go and ask LaReesa about her case study
mhm,
of prescribing a semaglutide to a patient.
mhm,
And then we're going to come back and I'm going to scroll through the comments. And so if you have a question
mhm.
or comment, put it here. I see one. Oh, love Dr. Dukes. Oh, so you have a fan right there. And we'll scroll through so we can answer some of your questions live while we're here. Okay,
Okay.
so Dr. LaReesa, tell us about your case study.
Oh, great. Great. So, my niche market is that perimenopausal, menopausal woman. And so, just a interesting fact. So, about approximately 8 years, even going through menopause, you are slowly gaining a little bit more fat and less muscle if you're not paying attention to it. So, it's part of kind of like that biological rhythm, even though genetics, lifestyle, and some other things and the toxic environment can contribute to it. So the person I will use in my head is a common one that I often see is that 40 something year old that still menstruating. But at the same time too is noticing the fluctuations, doesn't necessarily go into that pot of being menopausal. At the same time, most women are spending most of their time in perimenopause. So it wasn't like the hot flushes or the night sweats, but just knowing like the fatigue. I'm losing confidence because I'm gaining more weight, and also sleep deprivation. So one of the things I do when I start off is I do very detailed from goals to what would you like to see? Is there a goal weight? And if it is a goal weight, that gives me an opportunity to educate about composition when we really talk about skeletal mass of your muscle and visceral fat and those type of things that really do make a difference of what I want to start using the term of metabolic health. So we're talking about how your body utilizes energy in order to burn fat efficiently and therefore be able to retain the muscle that you need. And so when you go through all this, and this is from sleep conversations to what's her lifestyle like? She has 2 kids, like what are those things that you can be able to entertain a little bit more to really curtail some of the foundational things as well as things that you can add. So after informed decision making, this is someone like, hey, I've tried, I just feel more comfortable with going this route. And because I know me, right? So with that, I added, it's not something often used, but I added a leptin profile, which is just leptin is a hormone, that's also important as far as how you utilize your brain center of appetite and suppression.
I
And then
thought
also,
leptin makes you feel full, like turns off this hunger signal.
yes.
Is that right?
And ghrelin is that one that, really makes you feel that, hunger from the belly standpoint. So it was more elevated. So that gave me an opportunity to say, okay, you have a little bit more what we call leptin resistance, or your brain is not, understanding the signaling. So there's some backtracking that we probably need to do to add some support, as well as understanding like her fasting glucose was a little elevated. So she wasn't diabetic technically, but I consider a fasting glucose over 90 to be something, okay, we're not going to wait for diabetes to happen. This is, a sign of potential insulin resistance. We can do something about this. So a lot of those foundational things, one, I optimized her sleep, because I do believe when you do that, your body's going to be able to detox. You're going to be able to have more willpower based decisions and think better about things. We started using a GLP-1, but this is also working with a health coach that can help along with
So GLP-1 is a semaglutide,
Yes,
correct?
it is. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sometimes I
Just
say
checking.
Lucy. Thanks for checking
For
me.
us in the back
I
row,
appreciate
Dr.
it.
LaReesa, yeah.
So semaglutide, yes. And I use mostly the peptide version. And so we utilize that, and then also understanding, okay, this is the amount of protein, because with her history, she had poor eating habits, eating on the go, not able to take in stuff as well as she wanted. So you can't enter someone in this path without addressing some of the factors that can increase either failure, not really understanding that benefit risk ratio, because that's with everything. If your clinical provider is not telling you, okay, the potential risk versus benefits of this, because that's a true definition of an informed decision, because someone needs to know what they're entering. And so with that, putting on the right supplements, because I wanted to make sure still supporting certain things that they were able to do, because she did have a certain mutation that may cause her not to absorb folate and or her B vitamins as well. So needed to be on the right, composition of that.
Yeah.
And so, of course, my thing is most people are going to get the weight loss that they seek. At the same time, there's a regimen where we're not only looking at how much she's going to be taking in, making sure we're covering our protein bases, calories, etc., that accountability piece, understanding your medical and your hormonal background. I mean, if we in one state of mind, we want to be, different, and I'm a woman, but then we want to have the same dose as, a 55-year-old man, who might have a little bit more skeletal muscle anyway, to burn.
Right.
And so just having that accountability with that person. The regimen is once a week, and she was able to start on a lower dose and just be on that lower dose because she was pretty content. I used some other what we call synergistic, or those molecules are nutraceuticals that can also help benefit or optimize outside of just using semaglutide. And we follow her compositions, not just her weight, but she could really see that I'm improving my metabolic health. It makes you feel good knowing that, okay, my mom had diabetes And I'm really seeing these factors clinically where I'm reducing my body fat percent, not just looking
Not
at
just
the
scale
number
weight.
on the
Yeah.
scale. Exactly.
Do you do a body scan at a certain frequency?
Yes, so we start off with a body comp in the beginning, and then I start with a 12-week program with people, and then so you can be able to see the reflection after 3 months, and that's whether I'm going to use semaglutide or not, because metrics are manageable, right? So it's good to be able to see in a different light. It educates you better. My mantra has always been, we're preparing for now, but we're most importantly trying to set the path for the future. And the future of medicine is getting brighter and brighter, except at the same time, some of the demands in the traditional system, we have to be able to circumvent some of these things and understand that people need guidance, accountability, more assistance at where it counts, and triggering, historically from Atkins and what was that, Oleic something, like it's been a fad at some point
Always
that we forget
something,
about,
right? It
right?
always comes back to the basic
Mm-hmm.
nutrients, less energy, more
Mm-hmm.
muscle, all that good
Yes.
things. But when you need some help, what I
Mm-hmm.
love hearing also is that you can see anyone who's here and listening, and because they're thinking about it, the complexity required. It's not just you don't want to go to a doctor who's just going to give you a prescription, give you the injection thing. You get to dial it up
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? You can actually turn it up without
Mm-hmm.
all the things that Dr. LaReesa is talking about, all of these blood tests, these panels, this analysis,
Mm-hmm.
the nutrition, all of the lifestyle pieces. It's
Mm-hmm.
important. I'm going to let Barb jump in too, because Barb, have you had a client that has
Yeah.
been using a semaglutide?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is so good. We didn't talk about this part. It just came. But from now, we heard from a doctor's perspective. Now we're going to hear from a clinical nutritionist perspective on somebody that's taking a semaglutide. So how have you worked with it, Barb? And I keep hearing for the anti-inflammatory diet
Right.
too. So go ahead.
So, I mean, people usually come to me because they have some sort of inflammatory issue. Um, but the people that come to me don't have a doctor like Dr. LaReesa that have a whole program. They just get their prescription and they have other health issues going on, maybe not, but they don't know what to eat and they don't have that accountability. And it's difficult to make those changes to a healthier diet, especially if your immediate goal is losing weight and you're seeing it happen when you're just eating, the leftovers of your kids, the crust of their peanut butter
Right.
sandwiches, or, the
Guilty.
I miss
pizza
that.
or whatever, because you don't need very much food
Yeah,
and you're
that is
seeing this
true.
result. But you wouldn't see the good changes in the biometrics, right? You're going to see your muscle go down. You could see your cholesterol numbers still increasing. You might have joint pain, hair loss, all sorts of things like that. Your blood sugar numbers are going to get better because you're on this drug.
Right.
So that's going to be good. But one of the things that I noticed with the clients that I've seen with it, especially people who have been dieting for a long time, is that concept of food noise, where it's always like pulling you into the kitchen, or the afternoon you need that pick me up, or you want some sweets or something like that. That gets turned down because you're not hungry.
Yeah.
And that's a piece
Helpful.
that people are really happy about, right? Because they don't have that like
Yes.
stress kind of
Yes.
gnawing
Always
at
trying to
them.
combat that,
Those dopamine
negotiating
drivers.
with yourself,
Yeah.
especially if you're working at home. Like, no, don't go down to the kitchen.
Right,
That kind of
right,
thing.
right. I mean, I've seen them lose the appetite for some of their favorite foods too. I mean, it can go too far, right?
Depends
Um,
on
so
what your favorite food is, Barb.
right. Well, if
Yeah.
you're me, maybe not, but um, so I think um it, it takes work, I think, to be on these drugs. And I think that's the part that people don't always expect. I mean, it takes work if you want to do it in a way that's healthy, that's going to get you your short-term goal, and your long-term goal, like Dr. LaReesa was just explaining, that long-term health goal. And so that's, that's mostly what I see is people needing help. Like what nutrients do they need? What are they low in? Where are they not getting enough nutrition? And where can we structure a diet where they're really getting a big bang for their buck with the food that they do want to
I
eat?
would love a tip or two on that. I actually just went through the comments, and I can only go so far. So if there's some questions down there, I'm sorry, I can't see them now. Maybe if you guys can see them, give a shout out. I do. Oh, Undercover says this is so good. I'm glad this is super valuable for you. But so post another question if you want to ask here for Barbara, Dr. LaReesa. But other than, like the woman who shared with me that she has a Menowell bar to get in her fiber and that good maca, the fats, all these nutrients, little spinach and kale in a small bite, and that helps because her stomach doesn't feel well doing this. What else, Barb, can people have if they're on a semaglutide that's going to get those nutrients in easily without being too much food? Because it's hard. I can imagine you can't eat a huge kale salad when you are taking one of these things, like just way too much, right? So what are some of the things besides a Menowell bar can you sneak in there?
I mean, I love soup because you can start with a bone broth or something that's rich in protein. You can put a little chicken in there or whatever. You can put a lot of vegetables in there and they're pureed. You can put spices and herbs in there where you get a lot of phytonutrients. There's nutrients in plants that are colorful. But you can spice it up and get those, and they don't take up any room in your stomach, right? So a nice soup can be good. I think really dialing down and getting your protein. Sometimes in the morning, doing things like, or even for lunch, eggs with something like spinach. You can take that giant box of spinach and it comes down to like 3 bites once you cook it, right? So looking at things that are really nutrient dense, and you don't want to kind of waste that room that you have on things that are not really either giving you fiber or protein or a healthy fat. So maybe cooking your eggs and spinach in some good olive oil to give you some more nutrients in there as well. But you really have to look at, you have to really cook for yourself to get those nutrients. But I love herbs and spices because they give you a lot without taking up a lot of it's not like eating a raw kale salad.
And it can contribute to that anti-inflammatory component, when you're talking about the herbs and et cetera. I like how you say about the bone broth. I suggest it a lot. I put most of people who are going to go through something similar to this called a metabolic reset. And it's to make sure that we can detoxify or at least have a level playing field versus coming in a super inflamed environment. Because the better that input can have to addressing your system and adjust to your system, the better. But I wanted to talk about something that I think is important in relation to a lot of people have not been able to get up because the weight has been so much. So I will say one of the rewards have been once they have lost that 10 or 20 pounds, the boost of energy, that ability to move and not feel, kind of begrudging through, something. I think that has been a reward of such. But these are also a lot of the patients where you really do want to dial down to, oh, okay, are you losing a lot of muscle? Because at some point, I still want you to be able to have a lot of mobility, be able to support your bony structures, especially if we're talking about menopausal women where the loss of bone could be, change you from independently sitting down and wrapping a gift for your grandchild to, wondering what the heck just happened. I can't really move, type thing, because that's what it's about. Some of these memories or life events that are going on, we still want to be able to experience them whole, and sometimes just being that, it being that simplistic in nature of what do you want to do and what is your why and how you're going to be able to do it. And whatever that input looks like for you, just understand it is the Wild Wild West. Like literally, I worked with a pharmaceutical consultant who is a good friend of mine. And I said, look, I need to know what I'm getting. It's good because I'm seeing IG stuff where you can basically pay a penny for I'm over exaggerating,
Right. Mail
but
order semaglutide.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure that you are sourcing it from a good place and that is going through the reputable channels to make sure there's not impurities there, because not everybody, we didn't talk about the cost and affordability. If insurance isn't covering it, it's costing up to maybe $1,000, and the offset of that a month, or even diabetics who really need the drug Ozempic and aren't able to get it. And that's what it's on label used to do. So it's many challenges in this wild, wild west of weight loss, and especially in June of talking about it. January, people are setting goals, and financial and health tend to be, part of those top goals that people are after. Understand that it is a tool, but buyer beware out there, because there's certain things that need to be done under not only the supervision of a clinician who understands what you're doing, but you should want a little more. You know what I'm saying? So even if you're not getting from your clinical provider, then what are some, avenues like venues like this or other platforms where you recognize the risks that are related, and not necessarily following the IG streams that are talking about, look, I'm not even exercising. I'm not, like that's what, people are, excited about that
Right.
fact. And I'm just like, no.
But we want to move our bodies, like that's not a treat.
Right.
And our bodies really want to move.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really wants to move.
It
and
wants
has
to
Yeah.
move.
move
It's
well.
made to move. As a coach, I used to tell women all the time, a strength overused becomes a weakness.
Yeah.
Right? And it applies. It applies here. So be thoughtful about this choice. It may be for you, but make sure that you're talking to your doctor, you're reaching out to Dr. LaReesa, you're reaching out to Barb, and have a whole plan if it's for you. And if it's not for you, still do those things, because you need a whole plan.
Yes.
Because we're about longevity, vitality. I always say I want to be 101, year old sexy granny, and not just sitting in a chair doing it. You can be sexy sitting in a chair, but I'd like to move around while I'm doing it, So thinking long term. And so maybe we do need support for specific reasons short term, but it's still a long game, not a short game.
And I think that's something that gets lost in the conversation. That is a long game.
Yeah. Barb, Sonia Barnes said, is the use of turmeric a good habit to use in your cooking?
Yes. There are some really interesting studies I read in grad school about people who live, I can't remember which Southeast Asian country it was, but they eat curry every day forever. And it is part of their everyday diet, and their rates of brain things like Alzheimer's and are so much lower than ours. And they really think it's due to a lot of it because of all the spices and turmeric. But it's great.
Okay, so
for
curry and
anti-inflammatory.
turmeric, they're cousins?
Curcumin is the active ingredient in
both.
Well, in turmeric.
And turmeric.
The anti-inflammatory.
But you can have curry and get the same benefit or no?
Well, yeah, it has turmeric in it.
Okay.
It's a main ingredient in turmeric. But you could just eat, it's this root. It looks sort of like a mini ginger, and you could put it in anything.
Have you noticed
people put it in smoothies and stuff?
All the little brown roots are doing the thing, like maca.
Yeah.
Like turmeric. I love maca. Maca is a part of my every single day in the bar. But maca, ginger, turmeric, the little brown root that could. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
okay, ladies.
Medicine is a thing, like going back to some of the traditional stuff before, we started, dipping and dabbing and, changing molecules. Sometimes it just goes back to some of those things that we have an opportunity to use. And I wanted to just touch on one other thing about a lot of things that I have seen with the craze of semaglutide and Ozempic and Wegovy. I not only have I seen misdirection oftentimes, but amazing enough, I'm having more conversations with people about, okay, I'm not sure if I really want to do it. I'm really scared, you know?
Yeah, I would
So there
agree.
is still a large amount of people who have not bought in to the fad. So, and want to know a different way, or is that the only way, or
Mm.
is there something else I can do? And then that's when we can talk about all, these other areas of what I do, which is more integrative, understanding how this foundational tools can also be complemented with alternative ways to how your body can adapt and heal.
Mm.
And whether it's looking at, your active mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of your cells, and really producing that energy. We can have a whole conversation. We need to have it about NAD and some other things out there. Even from gut microbiome, what we've spoken about, to how you process with thinking, because a lot of that has to do with mindset, dopamine drivers, things that are going on that honestly, sometimes even putting someone on bioidentical hormone therapy and balancing some other things out can help them drop the weight. It's so, just understand their tools and opportunities to really extend. But I find that a lot of many women that are even interested or ask the question, they're more concerned about it,
Right.
and even kind of scared about, I'm not sure if I want to do this, but I want to talk about it because my friend looks better than I do.
Yeah. No, I
And
think I see the same thing, and that's people who come to me don't want to go on it,
Hmm.
but there is such a big noise about it that
Hmm.
they always ask me about it. And I think, it's similar to the conversation about bioidentical hormones. Is it right for me?
Hmm.
And really understanding what the inputs are and what the outputs are and how it will work for them. And is it the right tool for them or
Hmm.
not?
Hmm.
wow, you guys, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really good
Hmm.
information. I think we really shared the good, the bad, I won't say ugly, the possibility of semi-glutides. Is it for you? Being informed who you need on your team should you make that decision, or to help you make that decision. And oh, here's Marty G, did I say that right? Does curcumin avoid the high oxalate in raw turmeric? Ooh, that's getting into the
That's
nutrients.
a that's a good question. Honestly, if you don't mind taking this one, Bar, only because I end up using curcumin a lot in supplement
Me too.
form, and I do, especially when I'm not sure if somebody's going to absorb a lot of the greeny vegetables, and that comes a lot with women who have PCOS or endometriosis, and I'm really trying to reduce some of these inflammatory factors. So I usually have them on something called DIM or some form of curcumin. But I'm not sure about the oxalate specific response. Could you help out there?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that's a really
Hmm.
good
That's a good question. Hmm.
question. And oxalates
Well, while you're
are a
looking that up, Barb, I
compound.
know
They're
you're,
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, they're
yeah,
a
because
compound in food, and some of us react to
Hmm.
them, and some of us don't. And some of us can handle some if we're not having a lot of other oxalates in our meal.
Hmm.
So
yes,
I don't
spinach.
know. Right. Spinach,
Hmm.
yeah. Raspberries, chocolate.
Hmm.
I don't know if the oxalates, I'd have to look it up, are actually in the curcumin part or somewhere else in the turmeric.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure, like, we'd have to see if there was a lab that tested that. I'm sure we could look it up online.
I was just about to
Um,
say there is more advanced testing outside of the traditional setting where
Yeah.
you can have a better understanding of what your body metabolizes. And it may, and there are different fractions of what that oxalate could look like, or certain metabolites is what we call it, like after your body breaks down and after the chemical reaction. And that can extend to giving more information of what your body's doing with a particular drug or at this state of whatever you're doing, or even at your baseline. It gives you an idea of, okay, what is your body doing when you're just saying you're changing your systems or what you're taking from food inputs to medication or nutraceuticals. So there is advanced testing out there from a functional and integrative point of
But
view.
I'm
Really good
thinking also
question.
of the food, right?
Yes, yeah,
And I
absolutely.
might, there's so many anti-inflammatory nutrients and foods. I might start someone without it, see how they do with the diet, and then maybe we test it. If we see there's really a need that curcumin would help and some of the other things are not, then maybe look at it. But there's so many other herbs that are, and foods, just bringing in anti-inflammatory foods and taking out some of the inflammatory foods might be enough. You know.
You know, I'd say a big takeaway. I'm going to wrap this up because here we
Okay.
are almost an hour, which of
Oh,
course this
wow.
is a 5-hour conversation. But what we can take away is that we are all individuals.
Yeah.
Just like our menopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal journeys are individual. This is why you need professionals that care enough to do this complex work with you. Don't just sacrifice yourself to get a quick injection if that's what you want. You're worth so much more. Reach out to Dr. LaReesa, reach out to Barb Sobel, have a comprehensive plan whether you decide to do a semaglutide or not. We're worth it. Don't just go for the quick Instagram program of the day. It's easy. That's kind of exciting and fun. Or do that too, but make sure you're talking to someone because we're all different and you are worth knowing your body from the inside out. And we need professionals and experts to help us with that. So, team.
Awesome. Always fun talking with you.
All the good things.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Everybody make sure you're following at Barb Sobel nutrition _ like all the things. Just follow her here. Tell them tag.
Yeah, that's
And
where
Dr.
someone
LaReesa
asked about gut health. I was about to say Barb has some good stuff on gut
Barb.
health. So
Go on Barb's blog. Both of their blogs are phenomenal. And then we sneak some on ours over at My Menowell too on the blog. So the information is out there. Come back. We're going to have these two fabulous women back on the Meno Lounge because we always have, people are so excited to speak with you guys. So woohoo, here's to January. All the good things.
January, halfway through.
Where did it go? All right, everybody.
All
Have a
right,
great
bye.
day. Menowell. See you next time. Bye.